Thanks for watching Sweater Weather, a proud member of the Harbinger Media Network. Remember to like this video and to subscribe to the channel. And if you can, consider making a donation to the show over at our website, sweaterweatherpod.com. Comedy and community, I think they're often intimately linked. And I feel like that's true in your series too. Firstly, there's like a great ensemble, like of all everyone in the family, in the friend group. And I don't know if you agree, but like to me, that seems kind of more important to comedy than it does to drama, which sometimes can lean more heavily on just one protagonist. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But I do think, comedy, often reaffirms community by promising continuity, through the classic happy ending that has, romance or marriage or even birth. And you know, another way this kind of works too is like laughing is a communal experience.
Hmm.
Ideally done out loud with other people, which is maybe an experience we've not enjoyed lately during the pandemic. But
Hmm.
um, I think it was the philosopher Hobbes who described laughter rather darkly, as a mode of social control, where the community sets its boundaries by laughing together at something that it mocks or that it shuns. And that's pretty harsh, and I guess that's Hobbes. And it's certainly not the whole story of what comedy is, but there is something to this idea, I think, that laughter helps construct insiders and outsiders, maybe denying certain values and affirming others. So, is it fair to say that the communist's daughter, affirms a certain kind of community, or that it says something about communal life?
Hmm. Yeah, it's like a really there's a lot in that question. Um, well, I think that I I mean I believe that good comedy is made through collaboration and through like going back to what you were saying about an ensemble cast. I strongly believe that comedy is you need a certain alchemy um, between the actors and your creative team for it to like really spark. And I genuinely think like a lot of the funniest stuff out there is really a bunch of friends who got together and formed an improv troupe and made stuff together. What if you look at like SCTV, I think that's definitely the case. You know, if you look at like Kids in the Hall, like it's people who get one another making comedy together, and I think that alchemy is like very funny. And I think like I have a little bit of improv training from Second City, and that's very much a mentality of like if everybody tries to make everyone else look good, the whole thing gets better. It's not about every person out for themselves, right? That's which is maybe more stand up. But I feel like improv is very much of that spirit. And so that sort of collaborative approach to creating comedy really excites me. And for that reason, it's like I always, we had a finalized script when we went to shoot, but I knew that I was working with a lot of really great actors who would be able to bring moments of improv to the table too. So there's a lot of stuff in there that is like improv lines of dialogue that I ended up keeping from Jessica Holmes, Nima Nazari, like Aaron Poole, like all our Sophia Benzaf, like all our great cast. Um, so I think that there's that communal aspect to making comedy. Um, yeah, I'm just like trying to think about this idea of sort of how comedy condones some things and not others. It's a good question. I mean, I suppose that's why what we find funny is always changing, right? Like it's really interesting that you a lot of comics look back on jokes they made 10 years ago that they admit now we're punching down or we're not funny. I don't think it's like ever good to punch down at people personally, but it's really interesting. I think of like how our what we find funny as a society is always changing. And I mean, like I never found Andrew Dice Clay funny, but like I feel like most people would now agree, maybe, or you watch Eddie Murphy Raw now, it's like, oh Jesus, like some of that stuff does not age well. And I think for good reason, because people are saying, no, it's not okay to make jokes about certain members of the population. So I don't know if that answers
Yeah,
your
so
question.
yeah, community is sort of
Yeah.
is yeah, its values are evolving and they're changing, and you can see that in how certain comedy is accepted or not, or how you look back at it later. It's true.
Well, and I also would add that I think when you're doing a show that's set in another era, it's kind of a great thing because what it allows is for you to talk about the mores of today, but it allows you to set them in the past so that you can like laugh at them and it doesn't feel like as um it gives people some distance, I think. So it doesn't feel like you're attacking anyone in the present, but really you're talking about our values now and being like, ah, look at this. Like, look how in the 80s, like, you know, people thought trickle down economics was a great thing, right? And we like it's just easier to laugh at that with that distance. Like if you watch, I actually watched like the 1980s the version of Annie that came out in the 80s, the musical. And it's so funny. There's a song about tax cuts for the rich, like a very joyous song in that movie, which I think now we can look at and like laugh, but I'm sure a lot of people just like ate that up at the time, right?
I haven't seen that 80s Little Orphan Annie in a while, so I'd forgotten about that.
It
That's
is like all red, white, and blue. Like the production side is like all red, white, and blue. And then yeah, there's like songs. There is a musical number about tax cuts for the rich.